I was born in Latvia. My parents were born there too. And in fact, my mother was born in the same town as me, which is Libau, which is called now Liepaja. We had a big family. My father was one of 9. My mother was one of 4. So we had a really big family, lots of cousins. And my mother, she played the piano very well. And we always sang and played the piano, and at home, even Friday night after we finished eating. And so my father used to say, come on, let's dance. Mom will play the piano. So she played the piano, and I and my father, I was small, my father was 6 foot, and he put me on his feet and held me, and so we used to dance. And those are wonderful memories that nobody can take away from me. When the Germans occupied Latvia in 1941 in June, they gave a command to surround and ask all the able people, the men, to come and gather at a big square. And so, of course, everybody went, and my father went as well, and my uncles and so on. But I never saw my father again. They rounded up all the disabled people from the hospitals, Jewish, and they also surrounded the elderly. So my grandparents were taken away in September. They took them away, we never saw them, never heard of them. On the 15th of December in 1941, they took out all the people from their homes, and they took us to the prison. They took us to the prison, and in the prison there were thousands of people, and we were all standing in line, waiting for the person to tell us right, left, or whatever. We didn't know what was happening yet, and so I was standing with my mother and my 2 sisters and my maternal grandfather that still lived with us, and my aunt and her 2 sons also came to live with us. Somebody walked past me, an SS person in charge, and he said, come out and go into the office. And when I went into the office, he asked me how old I was, and he said, get out, he told the guard, let her go, after I answered his questions. And I said, no, I'm not going. I have my sister and my mother and my little sister, and I'm not going without my family. He said, well, then you won't go at all. I said, well, then I'm going to stay. And then he shouted again, and he said to the guard, well, let her go, but don't you let me see you again, ever. So I came out, and I took my sister and my little sister, my sister and my mother, and we went out. We went back to our house. And of course, my grandfather was gone, and my aunt and the 2 children were put on slates, and they were shot in the room, in the forest next to our town. So at that time, about over 8,000 people were murdered on that, within 3 days. You can imagine. In 1942, in June, they organized the ghetto. Only 800 people were left. Only 800 from, we were 9,500 people. And we went into the ghetto. On Yom Kippur, they took us out. And They took us to the station, and there we saw the cattle cars. And they put us all in the cattle cars. And you can imagine, there were some children, some grown-ups, some still a few elderly. Only standing room. No food, of course, nothing. We didn't have much food in the ghetto either. No restroom, no bucket even. It was just horrendous. And the cries and the terrible things were just, it's difficult to describe it. We arrived in Kaiserwald in Riga. That's 400 kilometers from where we were. So through the night and through the morning until the afternoon, we got there. And there again, right and left, and right and left. Now the people that were able to work, like my sister and I were young, we went to one side. My mother went to one side, and they took my little sister, who was 6 years old. They took her on that side, and my mother went to that side. We pleaded with her. I said, please don't go there. And she said no. She needs to go with the little sister. We can look after ourselves. Who knew that that would be the last time? They were taken to the Riga ghetto and shot after a few weeks. They took them to Rumbuli and they shot them there. We were sent in 1944. We were gathered together again and put on a boat to send to Stutthof, to Germany. They put us in a barracks, and when we lay on those boards of the barracks, the cockroaches and the bugs were falling on us like rain. And then they took us out from there eventually, after a few days, the ones that could walk. They put 600 people on a barge. They took the few doctors, and they put us on the North Sea. And they said they are going to take us to Goatland. When we got to Goatland, after like overnight or whatever, they wouldn't take us. They refused to take us because it had a yellow flag flying. Everybody in the boat was sick with typhoid, and they wouldn't let us come on shore. We were on the water for 9 days and 9 nights. We did not have food, we did not have water, we did not have medication. A lot of people died. The only thing we had were blankets, but not like you see blankets, rags. We wrapped those bodies in those rags, and we let them down in the sea. So we have hundreds and hundreds of Jews in the North Sea. That is their kure, you know, that is where they were buried. So then after the 9th day, one of the MiGs, the Russian MiGs, hit our barge. So it caught fire on the one side. So you can imagine the panic, what happened. But the German ship, a fire ship, they call it a fire ship, it's a ship that looks out for German, to rescue German sailors during the war. And that ship saw us, and they came closer to that barge. The ones that could come out from the barge over to the ship, those were the ones that were saved, and the others perished. And that were 80 people. Now, when we came onto the ship, it was the strangest feeling. They brought us some food, And they were really kind, and it was a strange feeling, you know. And then they took us to Kiel on the 4th of May. We arrived in the Kiel harbor, and the Kiel harbor had many, many ships with white flags flying from them, which indicated that they had surrendered, because the British have fought there. That was a British zone. They fought there, and that's where we were liberated. The way I was saved before by the German officer, and the second time when I was saved off the boat, all these, I think, are miracles. I can't explain it why. Those are true miracles. I went to the Ramat Gan stadium, where they celebrated the 10th anniversary of the State of Israel. And you can imagine, when I arrived the first time in Israel, and you sometimes see that when people arrive in Israel, they bend down and they kiss the ground. I don't remember doing that, but I remembered crying a lot, crying of joy. That I had the good fortune to be able to survive and see the independent state of Israel after so many thousands of years. You need to leave a legacy to the Jewish people, because, quite honestly, we are the ones that have to look after ourselves. The world has shown us that nobody else looks after us, but just us. When it comes to the crunch, it's just us that look after the Jewish people, ourselves. And so, on Yom Kippur, I sing a song, which is Eli, Eli, which means God, oh God, Lama Azavtoni, why did you forsake us? And the song goes on, but that is the song.